Welcome to the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley, psychology student and international best-selling psychology author of over 30 psychology books, bringing you the latest psychology news, fascinating psychology topics and more each week. If you want to learn more, then please check out connorwhiteley.net/books. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube video or follow on your favourite podcast app. And here's the show. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 286 of the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley. So for today's podcast episode is on what is attachment therapy, and it is Friday, the 6th of September 2024 as I record this. And I'm going to be really honest with all of you wonderful listeners that at the moment I made a mistake with this podcast episode. I thought I had a blog post on what is acceptance and commitment therapy, not realising I'd already done that podcast episode ages ago. And because I've spent a bit of time doing this, my executive dysfunction's kicking in really badly. So my ability to focus and form words and actually do stuff is becoming extremely limited. So I actually can't do a proper introduction. So I'm going to read you the introduction I wrote for the blog post. So one of my favourite topics in psychology actually comes from developmental psychology, because I love learning about attachment and attachment styles, since our attachment styles are critical to our mental health. The relationships we form and attachments impact so many aspects of our lives. Therefore, some people need a therapy to help readjust their attachment styles and help them so they can have healthier relationships and improve their lives. That's why this clinical psychology podcast episode, we're going to be looking at what is attachment-based therapy, how does it work, when is it used, and more. So if you're interested in learning about developmental psychology, mental health and attachment, then this is going to be a brilliant episode for you. So moving on to the psychology news section, we're reading from the British Psychological Society Research Digest. And the first one is Your Brain on Echolocation. Real-life stories of blind people using click-based echolocation to navigate their way through their environment have inspired studies into how to help others to do it. In 2021, for example, a team led by Liam Norman at Durham University reported that just after 10 weeks of dedicated training, both sighted and blind participants could develop these skills, with some even reaching the level of expert echolocators. In a new paper in Cerebral Cortex, Norman and the colleagues now report on findings from studies of brain scans of these participants taken before and after their training. This works reveals some similar brain changes in both the sighted and blind participants, including in a key visual area. Okay, so this is always going to be a really interesting topic, and something that's absolutely brilliant, because as you can imagine, I've not had this training. I think it's really interesting when people can do it. I just do not have this ability. And and also, like, one of our housemates has basically moved in this week, and poor them, because they always tend to walk into walls and doors, which, I mean, they don't do it on purpose, and they don't do it that often, but they can't walk in a straight line. So to be honest, it would probably be brilliant for them if they actually could do this echolocation thing. So clearly this has a lot of uses, especially for blind people, but also for sighted people. But this does connect to one of my favourite topics, neuroplasticity. I flat out love neuroplasticity, and in case you don't know what this is that it's basically how the brain changes in response to environmental demands, which is why blind people, well, because they're not using their visual parts of their brain, the other parts of their brain, like their touch, their sense of smell, and other bits and pieces, can potentially effectively grow, I say in air quotes, into that area, just which is what I suspect happens in this study, which is when you're doing echolocation. So it's clearly brilliant. Brilliant. I'm really glad that we've got this neuroscience research on it. And I'm also really glad that we have come to develop this sort of training, which I can help blind people to improve their lives, and they can try and function as independently as possible. Because we know from mental health research, a sense of all autonomy and a sense that you can do stuff by yourself is really important to your mental health and well-being. So moving on to the next one. The second one is mindless scrolling increases boredom. The vast majority of people in the UK have access to a smartphone, which in turn gives them access to TikTok, YouTube, Netflix, and pretty much any other kind of digital media they could possibly want at any time. As one poster somewhat flippantly put it on Twitter, open a quote, "Can't seem to sleep. Let's see if the bright light of my phone, containing all the information in the world, held inches away from my face for the next 15 minutes, manages to lull me into a peaceful slumber." Close quote. In theory, being able to conjure information or entertainment so easily means we should never be bored, even if it stops us from getting to sleep. But as the University of Toronto's Kelly YY Tam and Michael Inflit exploring a new paper published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology General, switching between lots of different online content could be making us more, not less bored. Okay, so that's a really good point, because I always remember that as a kid, whenever I would say to my parents, "Oh, I'm bored," they would get annoyed simply because they would also turn around and say, "You've got all those toys, go and play with them, otherwise we're gonna throw them away." Of course, that has nothing to do with this psychology news article, but it triggered a memory. But I do get it because the problem, I say in air quotes, with the modern media is that there's so much choice, especially on Netflix. Now, I love Netflix. I think it does a lot of good content. It does Heartstopper, for example, and a bunch of other stuff. I can't pronounce it, which is major pain, but Violet Evergarden on Netflix, I really do recommend that. That's a beautiful program. Anyway, so the problem with all of this media is that, one, yes, theoretically, we should never be bored, because we could watch a film every single minute of every single day on Netflix, for example, for the rest of our lives. And theoretically, we should never be bored because we've got something to do. But that's not how we actually work. And I think that's definitely a misconception which is starting to thankfully be undone in the general population. That people think that all this online media does make us less bored, but in reality, it actually doesn't, because it isn't as simple as that. So, but to be honest, I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say here, but I think that this is a good awareness article that if you want to become less bored, maybe actually try and do something more purposeful instead of like mindless scrolling. For example, when I've got the brain power for it, like Duolingo, absolutely brilliant. And it's only this week I've been struggling to do it because of my mental health. But Duolingo, absolutely brilliant. So that's a language app. You could do something physical. You could actually do something productive, like write a bit more on your academic paper or coursework, for example, or do a bit of like psychology learning, or read one of my books. So the last one is, a thank you really does go a long way. Saying thank you can be powerful. sometimes unexpectedly so. Gratitude can foster great happiness, which can be particularly impactful in romantic contexts, offering what one study refers to as a booster shot for relationships. Now, a new study on gratitude looks at the power of a thank you in a family context. Writing in the Journal of Positive Psychology, the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign team, I'm so sorry if I've butchered that, which of course I have because it's me, explores a gratitude between both parents and children, finding that gratitude doesn't just strengthen relationships between couples, but family ties too. So that's actually a really sweet finding, but I do see it in my own family, and from what I've heard from my other friends and the people over the years, I do appreciate how saying like a thank you, like it does help because I've always said thank you to my family members, but equally only certain family members because we all have different families. That's all I'm going to say there. But so my parents, I say thank you to quite a bit because that's what they taught me, and I am grateful for a lot of the stuff that they do. So yes, like it's really good that I am able to show that appreciation as in to them. But equally, there are other members of my family that I just don't thank because they don't deserve that thank you because of some of the stuff that they do though, and I'm not as close to them. And if we look at a another egg-like example of, let's just use a stereotypical egg-like example, is that if you've got a bratty teenager who's acting out and they are ungrateful for anything that their parents do, even when their parents genuinely try and do the right thing for them, then they're not going to be a closer because the child is going to be seen as ungrateful. Equally, the complete opposite is true. If the teenager or the child keeps trying to do really nice stuff for the parent, and the parent doesn't say a thank you, or if the parent doesn't appreciate it, then that's going to be a massive issue in the future. So the takeaway from this psychology news article is simply say thank you to more people, strengthen those family ties, strengthen those social relationships, and make sure that you do show gratitude towards the important people in your life. So I hope you enjoyed the psychology news section. So let's move on to the personal update. So moving on to the personal update. So this I am going to keep very light and brief. Well, I mean, I say that a few times, but I definitely am going to keep it light. So this week, I have no idea if it was better than last week. To be fair though, but I will start on the positive. So 9 days ago, when this podcast came out, so the Friday before, I went up to the Midlands to see my best friend to bring them back down, and we went ice skating. Now I am many things. I am a very good student. I pretend to be a good podcaster. I'm a good writer, etc. There is one thing I am not good at. I am not good at sports. But the standing comment and joke amongst my friendship group, even though this is not a joke anymore, is that I don't do sports because I'm good at them and I find them fun. I do sports because I'm so bad at them, everyone laughs. So me and my best friend, we went skating. I really enjoyed it. We were there for an hour and a half. Um, Now I had quite a few lumps on me because I fell over quite hard though. I've actually got a massive bruise on my right arm at the moment, which is sort of this sort of grey, black green though, because that's been getting more colourful as the week's gone on, as it's healed though. So I had a massive swollen lump on my chest at the bottom of my ribs, on my side, and also my right arm. So I couldn't lay on that side for a few days because I was so swollen though. But then, what happened was that me and my best friend we went skateboarding. Well, no. My best friend wanted to try and teach me skateboarding. I got on, I fell off, I grazed my arm quite badly on the swollen lump. So yes, there was a lot of blood there. So we sort of had to go back to them, and then their mum fussed over me, which was quite funny because I've only met her twice before, well, before that, but she is lovely. So I don't do sports, well, sports though, but I do want to do ice skating again because it was fun. I got absolutely battered, but it was a good time. Plus, I've also been returning to outreach work at my university as a student and ambassador. So I've worked 3 days this week though, including some vision workshops. So the reason why I'm telling you this is that as we enter the new academic year in a few weeks, I really do recommend the Cornell note-taking system. If you're struggling to make notes, definitely check out that system because it does seem to be really, really good though, and really impactful. Also, in other news, I've chosen my only module for the autumn term here in the UK. I'm going to be doing something on the neuroscience of aging, which looks at dementia, Parkinson's, the concept of successful aging. So that should be really good. And I've also designed two new studies, which I'm really looking forward to doing in the autumn term. And then I've been doing a whole bunch of other outreach sessions. In terms of my mental health, however, well, considering this blog post is one I wrote a while ago and I sort of banked it for a small project that I'm doing, let's just say that my let's just say PTSD has been wonderfully bad, not, and I do not mean that, I mean that very sarcastically. So PTSD's been really bad. Executive dysfunction has also been horrific. Like, my ability to make decisions at times has been absolutely dire, and a whole bunch of really quite bad mental health stuff has actually happened this week. So I'm coping somehow, somehow though. But I am looking forward to when my specialist counselling begins. Because it got so bad yesterday, yeah, because me, my best friend, and another friend of ours, and a friend of my best friend, I really should just give people pseudonyms, to be fair, for this. So we all went out to play tennis, and I was really good for the first hour and a half. Thankfully, it was just a 2 hour session, so we were playing for an hour and a half, and then I realised, oh no, I can't focus anymore, and I can't make decisions. Oh my god, I'm sort of just becoming a bit, um, basically becoming even worse than I already was. So there were normally tricks I can do. Because we were out in public, I couldn't do any of them. Yep, so that was a bit a difficult. And when we were all driving back to my place, I was trying to tell my best friend something that my friend had said they were, well, about having a dinner, but I couldn't form the words because I couldn't focus enough. So that was a bit concerning. So what I had to do was I had to text an email draft of what I wanted to say to them, and just show them, which my best friend later told me, I was really worried about you then. I thought you were going to go non-verbal for the rest of the night because that's happened to them before when they had really bad executive dysfunction. Thankfully, though, that didn't happen, but I have been shaking and having panic attacks a lot. Speaking of which, I do need to keep this as short as possible because am feeling a little fragile today. And I know at some point I will absolutely. Okay, something might be going on with my laptop, so I sort of need to wrap up this personal update so I can check it out. So as always, I always love to hear your thoughts and feelings on today's episode. So you can always email me, connorwhiteley@connorwhiteley.net. You can always leave a comment at the show notes at connorwhiteley.net/podcast. And you can always tweet me on Twitter at sci-fi Whiteley. I always love to hear from all of you because it really helps make the podcast feel more like a conversation. And you can always leave a comment on a Facebook post or LinkedIn post. And today's podcast episode has been sponsored by Developmental Psychology, a guide to developmental and child psychology. So this is a brilliant sponsor for today's episode because we're looking at attachment, which is the basis of today's podcast episode. And this is a real foundation topic in developmental psychology because it's really important for child development. So this great, really easy to understand books helps us to understand and answer questions. So, for example, what is attachment? What are the different types of attachment? What are the consequences of having a negative attachment style or one of the more negative aspects? Plus, we also look at how does coach impact our attachment styles and so many more great topics. For example, how does a play impact child development? How does our brain and our cognitive processes impact child development and child behavior? Plus, we also look at what is egocentrism, what is autism, what is a theory of a mind, and so many more brilliant topics that I flat out love because I find excited that developmental psychology I am a little passionate for. It is a lot of fun and it does make me smile. So I really do recommend this brilliant book that's easy to understand, engaging, and this is nothing like a boring textbook despite being well researched and referenced. So that is Developmental Psychology, available from all major ebook retailers, and you can order the paperback and the hardback version from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. And you can also get the audiobook narrated by artificial intelligence from selected audiobook retailers like Spotify, Kobo, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and selected library systems like Biblioteca, Bacon Taylor, and Overdrive. So whilst buying books helps to support the creation and the editing of the podcast, my time is sponsored by my wonderful patrons. And as always, a massive thank you to my patrons, which your support shows that you like the show and you want it to continue. So if you wanted to get tons of great rewards and become part of the Patreon community, now you can at patreon.com/the Psychology World Podcast. Or you can buy me a coffee if you want to support the podcast on a one-off basis at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. So that's enough of the personality. Let's move on to the content part of today's episode. So we're moving on to the content part of today's episode. So we're going to be talking about what is attachment-based therapy. So this is a great episode. I really enjoyed it when I researched it, so let's dive into it. What is the difference between attachment-based therapies and so-called attachment therapy? So before we dive into the main topic for today's episode, I want to confirm a very dangerous, disgusting and outrageous misconception that I would rather not have to deal with. In this episode, we are not talking about the disgraceful, unproven and possibly harmful attachment therapy that was developed in the 1970s for children with behavioural challenges, especially autism. These so-called therapies involve physical deprivation, restraint, boot camp-like activities, discomfort and physical manipulation. These so-called therapies are a disgrace, and thankfully they've been investigated and firmly rejected by mainstream psychology as well as medicine. We are not talking about those therapies in this podcast episode. What is attachment-based therapy? Instead, we're talking about attachment-based therapy that is a brief, process-oriented counselling where the therapeutic alliance is based on the building and developing trust and centres on the client expressing emotion. Also, the attachment-based approach to therapy examines the connection between a client's early attachment experiences with their caregivers and their ability to develop normal and healthy emotional and physical relationships as an adult. The ultimate goal of the therapy is to build or rebuild a trusting and supportive relationship that will help the client to prevent and/or treat mental health conditions like depression and anxiety. In addition, attachment-based therapies was developed, as you would expect, from Barlow's attachment work in the 1960s, since Barlow proposed that strong early attachment to at least one caregiver was needed for a child to have a secure sense of security and supportive foundation to explore the environment, also known as a secure base. Then Barley described there being 4 types of attachment, which we know as secure attachment, avoidance attachment, anxious attachment, and disorganized attachment. And if you want to know more about them, then please check out my book, Developmental Psychology. How does attachment-based therapy work? I think every single reader and listener here must be familiar with Bowley's attachment work. Therefore, out of respect for all of you wonderful people, I will not be explaining Barley's work again. I do know I keep butchering that, but my executive dysfunction's bad enough that I don't want to burn up brain power unneeded. As a result, because babies without a healthy attachment foundation grow up to be fearful, insecure, confused, and ultimately become depressed and even suicidal in adolescence, it's important that babies form trusting relationships with caregivers or with a therapist so the client is better prepared to form strong bonds in other relationships. Personally, I would like to add that depression and becoming suicidal in adolescence is a little more complex than attachment styles, at least in my personal experience. Yet, I certainly think having an insecure attachment style doesn't help in matters, and it would be lovely to have a secure attachment style growing up. Anyway, in attachment-based therapy, clients explore their childhood, so they might need to discuss their early relationship with their caregiver and their family dynamics growing up, as well as any significant childhood experiences. Afterwards, the client and therapist might explore the connection between their childhood relationships and their adult ones to see how the past could have influenced the present. Also, this could lead to the client and therapist talking about what skills the client might want to improve in their current relationships and improve their emotions and behaviors. Increasingly, attachment-based therapy can involve working with a family member too, as well as this type of therapy can be used alongside other forms of therapy too. Personally, I love the idea of doing attachment work with a client and family member because that is the root cause of the attachment style. It was the caregiver that caused the attachment difficulty, so getting the client and the family member to work together now to improve the client's attachment is actually a brilliant idea that would have a lot of benefits. Also, I understand how attachment style work can fit very nicely along other mental health approaches like systemic and humanistic. When is attachment based therapy used? Since this sort of doubles as an approach instead of a pure therapy in its own right, an attachment based approach to mental health can be very useful in couple, group, family, and individual therapy. Due to this approach helps both children and adults to mend and recover from fractured family relationships. That's why adopted children, care experienced children, adolescents who are depressed and/or suicidal, children of depressed parents, and children who have experienced abuse and trauma, even more so at the hands of a caregiver, can all benefit from attachment-based therapy. Overall, I should note that while some studies have shown attachment-based therapy to be effective and it does have benefits for clients, the evidence base isn't as strong as for other forms of therapy. What can clients expect from attachment-based therapy? When a client goes for attachment-based therapy, they know that the goal of the therapy isn't only to repair their family relationships, because the therapist can work with the client alone or with the family as a group. Also, the therapist works with the family to build and strengthen their caregiver-child bond, as well as the therapist helps the child to develop into an independent adult with high self-efficacy. In addition, when it comes to therapeutic work with individuals, the therapist aims to help the client overcome any effects of the negative early attachment difficulties that they have by establishing a secure bond with the client. Then, after this relationship is solidified, the therapist can help the client to communicate more openly and help them to better explore and understand how current feelings and behaviors are associated with the early childhood experiences. Conclusion. In my experience, and because of my own attachment difficulties in the past, and to a much lesser extent the present, I always enjoy looking at attachment because I know it's absolutely critical. And whilst we always think of it as a traditionally developmental psychology topic, it does have a massive impact on mental health and clinical psychology too. Therefore, I think what I want to unofficially say at the end of this podcast episode is that whether you're a current or future clinical psychologist or another type of therapist, definitely have an understanding of attachment-based work. Learn some of the tips, tricks, and techniques that will help a client to overcome their attachment difficulties, because you will probably need it in the future, and your clients could very well find it invaluable. Even though I never went for attachment-based therapy, my therapist did use a few ideas and notions from this type of work, and it has been really, really useful. So I know in the future, as I continue my clinical psychology journey, I want to learn more about attachment-based work, and I hope you will too. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode and you got something out of it. I know that I did, because even though I struggled making this a podcast episode, it's attachment work. I love attachment work because it is so critical, and even now I'm seeing that as an absolute critical thing for my own mental health at the moment. So it's really important. I do encourage you to check it out, learn more about it. Well, I think it does definitely have a place in clinical psychology. So if you know someone who would enjoy today's episode, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the podcast episode. And if you want to learn more, please check out Developmental Psychology, a guide to developmental and child psychology, available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get the paperback and the hardback version from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library, or get the AI generated audiobook in all the usual places. Plus, you can also become a patron of the show at patreon.com/the Psychology World Podcast. Or if you want to support the podcast on a one-off basis, you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Conor Whiteley. So have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening today. I hope you found it helpful. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow the podcast on your favourite podcast app. And if you wanted to learn more, then please check out the backlist of the podcast episodes or my books at conwhiteley.net. So have a great day, and I'll see you next time.